Volt fam, something's happening inside this building, and it's the kind of thing that doesn't show up on a box score, but it can absolutely decide a season. There's a quiet domino effect in the background, a low-noise target in the trenches that could keep Justin Herbert upright, a coaching rumor that sounds small until you realize what it could mean for continuity, and a franchise legend who flat out doesn't want to leave LA. And here's the open loop. By the end, I'm going to tell you the one detail people are missing that ties all four together. So let me ask you this. Do you trust Harbaugh to control the chaos? Or do you think the tide is pulling more pieces away than we're ready for? Alright, if you're locked in, tap like, hit subscribe, and drop your take as we go, because this is the kind of episode that's going to split the comments. Here's the thing. Losing a coordinator hurts. Losing a coordinator and watching that coordinator start pulling people out of your orbit, that's when it stops feeling like normal off-season stuff and starts feeling like a slow leak you've got to patch fast. When Jesse Minter left for his new head coaching job with the Baltimore Ravens, we all knew he wasn't just changing zip codes, he was taking a piece of defensive identity with him. That part was predictable. The rough part is what comes after. The staff build, the poaching, the little roles that fans don't always clock, but players feel every single week. And while that's happening on one side of the ball, Jim Harbaugh is also reshaping the offense. He moved on from Greg Roman and swung big by bringing in Mike McDaniel to work with Justin Herbert. That's exciting. It should be exciting. But every big swing has a cost. New terminology, new rhythm, new weekly structure, new expectations. And if too much changes at once, September turns into an extended stress test. Now, the newest layer. More names connected to the Chargers ecosystem have been popping up as part of the movement. Jeff Zrebiec at The Athletic laid out a few of the names tied to this coaching carousel, including Rick Minter and Christina DeRuyter. And here's the correction that matters. Patrick Kramer is being hired by Baltimore as a quality control coach, but he's coming over from the Atlanta Falcons, not from the Chargers. That distinction is important because it changes the story from another Chargers coach leaving to Baltimore adding another piece while also pulling from multiple pipelines. And yeah, you'll also hear the Dallas Cowboys name in this broader staff shuffle conversation too. Because when the league sees a staff in motion, it becomes open season. Be honest, this is where the fan base splits. One side says, this is football, good staffs get rated. The other side says, cool, but we're installing a new offensive brain at the same time we're losing defensive continuity. That's a lot of instability around a franchise quarterback. The tension is simple. Are we building something that hits fast, or are we rebuilding an airplane while it's already in the air? Because if the new staff gels quickly, the ceiling rises. If it drags, you pay for it with early losses that don't feel fatal in the moment, until January shows you the seed line and you remember every missed opportunity. And speaking of protecting the quarterback while an offense is being rebuilt, let me throw a name at you that won't trend, but could matter more than a splash move. There are moves that come with fireworks, and there are moves that show up quietly, do their job, and suddenly your entire offense looks calmer. That's where Ethan Pocic comes in. According to Pro Football Focus rankings, Pocic sits as the third best option at center. And that's the exact kind of under-the-radar profile the Bolts should be looking at if he's available. While snapping for the Cleveland Browns during an offense that never felt fully settled, he's consistently graded well in pass-blocking efficiency. And for this team, that's not a luxury, that's survival. Because center isn't just another lineman. That spot is communication. It's protection calls. It's identifying pressure. It's keeping the pocket from collapsing straight up the middle. The one place that forces even elite QBs to speed up, drift, and miss throws they normally hit in their sleep. If the Chargers want the full version of Herbert in a McDaniel-style system, timing, movement, spacing, chunk plays built off rhythm, you need a stable interior. You can't ask the quarterback to be the cure for everything while the A-gap is a weekly mystery. And I already know what some of you are going to say. That's not a big name. Exactly. That's the point. The best trench moves often feel boring on the day they happen. and feel genius the first time your QB has time on 3rd and long and the route actually develops like it's drawn up. The warning is pretty straightforward. If you let a steady center option slip by, you're not just missing a player. You're choosing another year where the offense has to compensate for the same problem. And the Bolt fam is done watching seasons get dragged into the mud because the middle of the pocket can't hold up when it matters. Now keep that thought, because while we're talking about building an offensive identity and keeping it stable, there's some talk floating around that sounds like a small coaching hire, but it might actually be about protecting Herbert from the worst thing a franchise QB can deal with: constant change. Rumors are starting to swirl as the Chargers round out the 2026 staff under 2 new coordinators. Some of the names that get tossed around can be a little concerning, but there's also a category of rumor that's exciting because it actually fits a plan. McDaniel has already brought Butch Barry over from the Miami Dolphins, and now there's talk he could be on the verge of pulling another familiar voice. Matt Zenitz of CBS Sports has said it's being viewed as a strong possibility that the Chargers hire Max McCaffrey as running backs coach. Nothing is confirmed yet. This is still in that it's being floated zone. But as a concept, it lines up. And yes, it's that McCaffrey family tree. Max is Christian McCaffrey's older brother. He bounced around practice squads from 2016 to 2018, got into 6 NFL games, and logged 1 reception. So if you're only looking at the playing resume, you might shrug. But coaching isn't about what you did as a player. It's about what you can teach and how you can build a system. Max has spent the last 3 seasons working under McDaniel, absorbing the structure and the little details that make a Shanahan-style offense lethal. Before that, he even had time with the San Francisco 49ers while McDaniel was on staff, so he's been around this ecosystem for a while. He also has play-calling experience from his time as offensive coordinator at Northern Colorado Bears football. Not NFL, obviously, but it matters that he's had to call a game and live with the consequences. Now here's the part I need you to sit with for a second. This rumor might not be about running backs at all. It might be about the future. McDaniel's been honest about his end goal. He wants to win a Super Bowl as a head coach. And if he gets one electric year out of Herbert, he's going to be one of the hottest head coaching names next offseason. That's just reality in this league. So if you're the Chargers, you either panic when that moment comes, or you start planting continuity now. Because the absolute last thing you want is Herbert learning a brand new offense every year like he's on a rotating door. If you can keep the language consistent, the concepts, the rhythm, the core philosophy, you protect your quarterback and your locker room. So yeah, some fans will love the idea of building a pipeline. Others will hate the idea of a young, unproven hire. And that's a real debate. Do you want a recognizable veteran name? Or do you want a plan that keeps Herbert from rebooting his brain every season? And speaking of locker room and leadership, there's one guy who just made his intentions crystal clear. And what you do with him could shape the entire pecking order in this passing game. Keenan Allen isn't talking like someone ready to fade out. He's talking like someone who still wants the fight, and wants it in LA. On the Zach Gelb show, he said his body feels good, he feels healthy, and being in a locker room with guys like Herbert and Ladd McConkey keeps him young. When asked if he plans to play next year, he said absolutely. And when the conversation turned to whether he'd consider playing for another team, he shut that door fast. He wants to remain with the Chargers. That's not just a nice quote. That's a locker room signal. Keenan has been third down money for years. Even with the natural athletic decline you'd expect over time, he's still got the craft, route pacing, leverage, timing, and that feel for where the sticks are on third and whatever. In 2025, he converted 51 first downs. That's real production. But here comes the uncomfortable part, the part that's going to light up the comments. If Keenan is heavily targeted again, it can create unintended consequences for the younger weapons. McConkey dipped in production last season and disappeared in stretches down the stretch. Even taking away the Week 18 incentives game, Keenan still out-targeted him. And every third in Keenan is also a play where your explosive young guy isn't getting the ball. So the question isn't, do you want Keenan back? A lot of the fan base will say yes because leadership and situational greatness matter. The question is, what does back look like? What's the role? What's the snap distribution? How do you maximize Keenan without stunting the growth of the next wave? This is where I'll give McDaniel the benefit of the doubt. His offenses aren't rigid. He builds roles with intention. He creates matchups. He scripts ways to get people touches without turning the whole thing into a predictable hierarchy. If anyone can thread the needle, keeping Keenan valuable while unlocking McConkey more consistently, it's a coordinator who actually embraces adaptability. And now, think about how these four stories connect. Staff turnover isn't just gossip. It's a stress test for culture. A boring center target can be the difference between Herbert playing free or playing tense. A rumored coaching hire can be the foundation for continuity when the league tries to poach your coordinator. And a franchise legend wanting to stay forces you to define the future of the passing game. Here's the detail I promised. 2026 isn't going to be decided by talent alone. It's going to be decided by choices, uncomfortable ones, made early, made clearly, and stuck to when things get loud. So I'm putting it to you. Which decision do you defend without blinking? Drop your take in the comments, smash the like if you want more Chargers coverage like this, and make sure you're subscribed, because the way this staff and this offense come together is going to tell us a lot before we ever get to SoFi Stadium in Week 1.